Hello watch enthusiasts. Now today I'd like to talk about Quartz sports watches, because often they offer a certain functionality over an automatic movement or mechanical movement. And as much as I love mechanical movements, if you are buying a watch specifically for sports purposes, sometimes Quartz is the better option. Now the first watch that I'd like to talk about is the Bulova Moonwatch. And this new watch is modelled off a watch from 1971, worn during the Apollo 15 moon mission, when one of the Speedmasters worn by an astronaut actually broke before they arrived on the moon. So the backup watch was this Bulova running a chronograph system and tachymeter, and this was worn on the moon, and really did demonstrate that Quartz could be used for these sorts of purposes as well as mechanical. Now the modern version of this watch, which is made to pay homage to the original, really does demonstrate what a Quartz movement can do, and this is because it runs at the 262 kilohertz rate, which Bulova high beat Quartzes do, and this makes them more accurate and also allows the second hand to sweep because of that high frequency. What's most impressive about this watch and its movement is the movement offers greater accuracy and arguably better reliability than a mechanical chronograph worth several thousands of pounds, making this watch a really ideal sports type of watch if you need to time things and time them very, very accurately. Equally, this watch does have a real pedigree, hence its history of going to the moon and actually being used by astronauts to time their mission and so on. Something else which one can't say about mechanical watches for this price is that this Bulova has an in-house movement. So not a stock off-the-shelf movement, but one specifically made for this watch, which is something to be appreciated really. When to get an in-house movement, you have to pay at least £1,000, and usually well into the 2,000 or 3,000s. Now this watch can be bought on a rubber strap, a leather strap, or a bracelet, and it also comes with a NASA-style Velcro nylon strap, which is also a nice touch and shows that they're really harking back to their history and the heritage of this timepiece. That box crystal, which sits high above the dial and above the rest of the case, also adds depth to the watch face and makes it a more interesting purchase. The next watch is the Citizen EcoDrive, and this is a watch which is a Quartz powered watch, but is actually solar powered, so it's solar charged via a plate which sits beneath the dial, thus combining the rugged durability of a Quartz watch with the perpetually wound nature of an automatic one. Now with the EcoDrive, I'm not necessarily referring to one watch, I'm referring to the entire range, because they all offer these similar capabilities. Also, what one can also bear in mind from the buying and use perspective of a watch is that with a Quartz watch, eventually it'll run out of battery and you have to have it taken back to the shop. Whereas you get an almost indefinite lifespan with one of these, because of course they recharge themselves on the go. So as a result, you get that the best of both worlds. You get the shock resistance and the sturdy nature of a Quartz movement and the long service intervals, with the perpetually wound nature of a mechanical watch. The fact that you don't have to open the case back as much means that you can also have greater water resistance and not have to have it resealed each time. Also, one has to bear in mind that these watches are remarkably inexpensive compared to a mechanical watch with the similar accuracy and an automatic watch with such accuracy. So, as a result, you are getting a lot for your money for the £200 or £300 which you can get these for. So if you're happy with a Quartz movement, these will offer better functionality in more demanding circumstances. However, if you want a watch with ultimate water resistance, then the Sin UX is really what you want. This Zin is a watch manufactured in Germany, and it contains a fairly simple and generic Quartz movement, but it shares the case of their U series of watches, and these are their extreme divers. Now, to put this into context, the most basic version is a 1,000-metre diver. So actually, you're getting an incredible amount of of watch for the money. Now these watches cost about just over £1,000, 1,200, depending on the bracelet or strap option you go for. And they also are housed within this marine grade, so this submarine steel, which is much more corrosion resistant than normal stainless and substantially harder. You can also have it tegmented, which makes it a further bit harder than normal stainless steel, making it very resilient to the elements. Now, talking about the resistance of this watch, this is also in their Eisensatzmesser line, which is their sort of mission timer line, which means that this watch is extremely temperature resistant as well, so it can go down to well into the minuses and then up into, I think, into the 60 or 70 degree mark. So actually this is very resistant to whatever temperature of water you happen to be swimming in. However, the main advantage of this watch being quartz is that due to the high torque of a quartz movement, you can actually fill the entire case with oil, which is what they've done here. And this means that a pressure is exerted outwards to counter the inward pressure of water around it. Hence this watch can resist 5,000 metres of depth. This effectively makes this watch one of the most water-resistant watches in the world, and I think one of the most wearable because it still retains that slim profile which other U-series watches and other dive watches of this type and this depth rating simply don't have. The only disadvantage of this is that when you want to have the battery changed, you actually have to send it back to Zinn, because they have to drain the oil of the watch and then change the battery and then replace the oil and then screw the case back on, which is of course something which can't be done by a local jeweller. Now this enormous yet very impressive timepiece is the Breitling Emergency, and this is probably the ultimate in exploring quartz watches, because it includes a lot of features which are very impressive for the price as well. Within this very large 51mm case, titanium case, this watch includes a very high precision chronometer thermocompensated quartz made by Breitling, which also includes these two displays which can be used for the chronograph function of this watch. So of course this watch does have a 1/100th second accurate chronograph, which is a very interesting feature to have on a watch without any sort of extra pushers. But of course this is all operated via the various means that are still available on the outside of the watch. This watch also has a pretty much fully anti-reflective coated crystal, which means it really is legible from all angles. Equally, the sheer size of the dial makes it very legible too. The hands are also made differently in terms of the hour and minute hands, so that in the dark they're easily differentiated. And also it has a bidirectional compass bezel, which can be used to, as the name would imply, to judge where the different bearings are. This watch is also available in a number of colours to make it more legible or more appropriate for the different environments you're going to be using the watch in. Now, it also comes on either a rubber strap or a titanium bracelet, both of which are very attractive. I would probably choose the rubber strap simply because the watch is already a very, very large watch, and a very heavy one too. However, the most impressive feature about this watch is that cylindrical device being slipped into the side of the watch there, as you see in the diagram. And that is a distress beacon. So in an emergency, you unscrew the large secondary crown and pull it out, and that will commence a tracking beacon so that you can be found easily and quickly, and it calls the emergency services immediately. Now this really will work anywhere, on the basis that it's satellite driven and GPS tracked, so you don't actually have to say anything or call anyone. The help will come. Now the GPS tracker is such an important feature that you actually have to sign a form when you buy this watch to say that you won't pull it out in a case which isn't an emergency, and waste the emergency services time. Finally, I think the most impressive aviation quartz watch is in fact the Omega Spacemaster Z33, and this is a titanium watch again, with a very large size, which reminds one of the Flightmaster of the past. Now, within this big titanium case, the watch actually features a very complex thermocompensated chronometer quartz movement, which is accurate to 10 seconds a year, and also includes a chronograph and can actually follow and time 10 different things at the same time, which is very impressive and something which a mechanical movement simply couldn't do. Equally, this watch has a perpetual calendar and 2 time zones you can set apart from the standard, from the one shown on the hands. You can also time different legs of a flight, and of course that perpetual calendar will run you through several years, and knows the day corresponding with that particular year. One touch which shows Omega's attention to detail is the fact that there's one pusher which will actually move the hands out of the way to 3 and 9 in order to allow you to better see the LCD displays. Despite being very thick, this case does hark back to the original 1969 Flightmaster in its design, and it's clearly shown in this sort of sunburst-style brushing. This watch was conceived and designed in a different era, and I must say I like it very much. I think it's very attractive. Obviously not a watch that can be worn in a dress occasion, but as far as a high-functionality sports watch goes, this really does push all the buttons. Now this watch is available on a bracelet, which is titanium as well, or a rubber strap, or equally a brown leather strap. And I think of the 3, I would probably end up choosing the leather strap, just because I think it complements that very highly technological head of the watch with a more traditional band. Whereas I think the titanium one simply makes the whole watch look too metallic. The rubber strap is also a very nice choice. Anyway, I'll end on a picture of this wonderful Omega. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please do like, share and subscribe to see more content on this channel. So thank you very much for watching. This is I'm on the Watch Guy, over and out.